welcome. And at this time, I want to turn it over to Patty Gunderson, who's going to just kind of give us a little bit of background as to the importance and why we have selected to participate in this social and emotional learning community of practice.
Thank you, James. So hello, everyone. I also want to thank each and every one of you for participating in the social and emotional learning community of practice with us. You know, the growing statistics show that the mental health issues, including suicidal thoughts, are on the rise. People are having feelings of isolation, not being connected with each other, and feeling like there's pieces missing for me, for you, as a whole person. Today, we're going to begin the process.
Enough.
Providing strategies and tools to fill in those missing links for ourselves, our own children, our neighbors, our partners, and our students. So thank you again for participating.
Thank you, Patty. Well, part of our work together is going to be centered around getting together and doing some community building in the beginning of each of our meetings. And so we are going to have lots of partners with us today. So we'll have Jody Nguyen-Schwander, who is going to be one of our presenters, and they'll each tell you a little bit about themselves before they start today. And then we have Camille Taylor, who's going to be also one of our presenters today. And so our rest of our team is Jan Demirs, Patty Thurman, Patty Gunderson, and we are adding a few other people into our planning team as we go through the next couple of weeks. And so we are glad that you are here with us. And again, we look forward to a great time. I have put the agenda in the chat for you so that you can have access to that agenda. And if you would sign in for us, that would be absolutely very much appreciated. So one of the practices that's important when we begin to look at this is a welcoming ritual. And so today we're going to practice a welcoming ritual together. And so part of that welcoming ritual will be answering 4 questions. And those 4 questions are, who are you? Where do you work? And by where do you work, don't just say, hey, I work at a school. Say what school you work at and what do you do there? What's your role? Give us that little bit of information. And then how do you take care of yourself and your well-being? Okay, so we're going to talk about that. And if you have your agenda with you, it is under the welcoming ritual. I will, once we put you into your breakout groups, I will also be broadcasting that to you as well. And so when you get into your group, you're just going to have a nice conversation. We've allotted 10 minutes for that. And I want you just to spend a few moments answering those 4 questions with the people in your group. And it is going to be a great opportunity for us to be able to see how and who's in the room and what gathering we get to do together. And so I'm really happy that you are joining us today. And let's go ahead and get you all into your breakout rooms. And we're going to see how that works today. So if you'll join your breakout room, I've sent you off, and that will give you just a few moments as well. Around the work that we are going to accomplish together as a group. So our objective for today are centered around the fact that we want to make sure that we have a collaborative space for professional learning around social and emotional learning and to connect with equity efforts. We want to make sure that whatever we're pushing out is equitable and really will benefit not only the people that we serve and work with, but also individually work and help each one of us, because that's really a critical component. And today we're going to focus a little bit on that self-care and self-awareness piece with some different activities. We also want to make sure to provide opportunities for participants to identify, recognize, and name your emotions in the moment. So we're going to talk a little bit about how do we do that? How do we show up into a space, and how do we check in on each other? And how do we check in on the people that we work with even to read their mood meter? Because one of the things that we know is that if we know how someone is operating and how they feel, that will dramatically affect their output and how they engage in the things that we need them to engage in. So we'll spend a little bit of time focused on that part as well. The last one we want to do is we want to make sure that each time we showcase some practices and things that you can do for yourself or that you can do with other people as we move through the system and the processes that we're going to be going through. And so I want to just encourage you that as we do that, we're going to try our best to do some modeling of activities. We're going to get best practices. We're going to try to figure out how that works as we're beginning to create a whole system. And so our goal is really to not just say that we're concerned about social and emotional learning, but to work together and to pull out and to put things together in different ways, and so that we're able to really impact and show the work that we're doing. So you have your agenda. Hopefully you were able to find that. That would be helpful. If you have that agenda, sometimes it's easier to find, but so we'll be going through the agenda. Our norms for our meeting today, the things that we're really focused on are on the third page in your agenda packet. We want you just to come as you are. We don't expect you to get all ready and perfect and unfocused and put back into the space, but we want you to come as you are. We want you to take the space and make space as we're together. And we want to use the chat to ask questions and to engage and to really spend time together as we go through this process. Hopefully you've taken a minute and signed in on the agenda for us so that we have that you attended today so that we don't have to go back in and repopulate it. We will work on that. I know that sometimes if you're on a phone, it's difficult to navigate the functions of all of that we may need to do. Then we have some community agreements, and so you can read through those as well. But we really want this to be a time of collaboration. We want it to be a time of learning, and we want it to be a time of discussion. And so we've tried to form that into each of our aspects. We also want to make sure that we're spending time learning. And so that's been one of the things that we have really focused on. Someone asked me, why do we want to do this work? And the reason we really want to do this work is that we've all faced a lot of challenges. We've had a lot of things that have been unknowns. We've had a lot of stresses. The people that we work with have had those same stresses and pressures. We may or may not realize even that it's affecting us. So what's happened is that there was a movement in the state of California through the County Superintendents Association, and they began to do some work. And so what happened is they have funded all 58 counties to do work through a FEMA grant called CalHOPE Student Support. And so through this grant, we're going to be focusing, and it's an interesting concept because FEMA has never funded work to be done around trauma and disaster for an entire state. And so we are the recipients of that. And so part of that was that we would come together because we all have had so many adverse reactions that have been caused by the pandemic, the shifting in what we're doing at work or what we're doing in our schools, the natural disasters that we face, and the trauma that's come with that has also become one of the things. So as we also think through this, it's important to understand that social and emotional skills are necessary everywhere that we go. And we need to figure out how to engage with those principles and practices. What do they mean to us as individuals? What do they mean to us as a community? What do they mean to us as family? What does it mean to us as a school? And what does it mean to us as classrooms? And so what we have done is we have taken a model, and so you'll see this chain link everywhere because we believe that it's links. And so we're gonna walk through the links in several of our meetings, and we're gonna make our way through all of the links throughout this 2021. And so that's kind of our goal. And as we work through those links, our goal is really to make sure that we understand that we're not going to fix everything through this process, but we're going to give people tools in their tool belts that hopefully you can use immediately. Hopefully there will be things that as we break into cohorts, and that is our goal, is that at several of our meetings, we're going to break into a cohort. So maybe you're a middle school teacher and or classified staff or a principal, and we're going to put some community members in with you. We're going to put some other people that may be in the same work, and then you're going to have some assignments that you'll get to do together to help us talk about best practices and how might that roll out. We're going to be doing one with our preschool. We've invited preschool, we've invited child care providers, we've invited our agencies that we work with. So our goal is really to do this not as a closed school group, but to do it so that we're building in supports from agencies that are able to help build our capacity and to build our capacity of helping others. And so that's the why of the work that we're doing. So I hope that you are excited about that why. I hope that throughout this process that we will be able to garner some great information and resources, not only for the global, but for us individually. And so that is really at the forefront of our crafting and working together for each of the agendas. The other thing that I will mention to you is that we did put on the agenda in that packet, there's a thing called the garden. We want you to plant your questions, your ideas, your suggestions of things that come up in there, put it in the garden. Because if you put it in the garden, it has a possibility of growing. And so if you just keep it to yourself or we miss it in an email or whatever, we just want to make sure that we have space for you to leave us with the information that's necessary to continue to build us into a stronger force to impact and help those that we serve and work with. And so that is really the hope and the work that we do. So I promised you that we would get to our link. So our link for today is self-awareness. And so today we have two presenters that are going to be walking us through the work and how do we frame self-awareness and how does that work? And so I'm excited to invite Jody Neuenschwander. She is our first presenter today. And Jody will just quickly tell you what she does here at the county office, and then she will start us off in our learning today. Thank you for coming.
All right, thank you, James. So my name is Jody Neuenschwander, for those of you who don't know me. My current role is I am the District Support and Improvement Coordinator here at Laughlin County. And prior to my role here at the county office, I was a teacher for 15 years. I worked both all across the gamut from kindergarten to 6th grade. And my last probably 6 years in education, I worked in 2nd grade in the Susanville School District. And that's really where I developed my passion for social emotional learning. I really saw the need of our children among our, all right. So I don't quite know where I got left off or what I muted on me, but like I said, my last 6 years were teaching 2nd grade at McKinley School in the Susanville School District. And that really is where I developed my passion and really just saw the importance of all of this and how it can help not only our children and our families and even our teachers. So like James had just mentioned, he really covered the why. And as always, it's really important to start with the why. So we have a clear, really an understanding of the importance of today. And so now I'm going to go ahead and get into the what. So what is really social emotional learning? I want you to think about for a minute, what is something that you want more than anything? Maybe it's something for your children, something for your spouse, and even something for yourself. When we think big, it might be that, that good health, a good education, a great career, and even riches. But when it really, really comes down to it, above all that, don't we want each and every one of us to have that ability to get up when we've fallen down? And it's really about building that strength of the character, the resilience, and even that warm toughness to rise above when we're faced with challenges. But sadly, as many of us know, many adults and children do not have that courage or that fortitude to just keep on fighting when things are tough or when they're faced with adversity. Many children and adults are not really taught how to manage their emotions, how to be empathetic, or how to problem solve. And so we know that this can have a profound impact on their ability to be socially and academically successful. The research is clear. We know that families, schools, and communities, so really all of us as a community can come together and we have a part in social emotional learning. And we know that these skills need to be taught intentionally and explicitly. We need to provide children and adults with the skills to know how to cope and manage the stresses of life. It's really about addressing that whole person to ensure that they have that productive, fulfilled life that we all want. So that is really what social emotional learning is about. It's about the process, and it is a process where children and adults, they really acquire and effectively apply the knowledge, attitudes, and skills to help them understand and manage their emotions, set and achieve goals, feel and show empathy for others, and then maintain those positive relationships. It's about developing the individuals and really giving them the know-how and strength to deal with academic stress, financial burdens, or even bullying in our schools. And this can have a real significant impact in our lives. So through social and emotional learning, we can develop those socially and emotionally stronger individuals. There are 5 core competencies of social emotional learning. Each of these address the skills that are really needed to live that successful life in all aspects of our life. And so there are, like I said, 5 competencies. And so today we're digging into self-awareness. Then we have self-management, self-awareness, relationship skills, and then responsible decision-making. And then, like James had mentioned, these really are what build our capacities as individuals to deal with our challenges and really put those tools in our toolbox so that we are equipped to handle difficult situations. And when we are socially and emotionally competent, evidence shows that there are benefits to this, and that's improved decision-making, an increase in academic success, fewer behavior problems, less emotional stress, and even positive social behavior. So knowing the importance of this, we're going to move into Camille will be joining us, and she will sort of do a check-in to kind of get us grounded in what social emotional learning is really about.
Thanks, Jody. So some of you may know and recognize the name of Abraham Maslow. Mr. Maslow in the 1940s was engaged in studying human needs. And he came up with a system of human needs that really applies to many of us as humans. And he starts off with, okay, what are the basic human needs? Air, water, food, and shelter so that we can survive biologically. But then beyond that, we step into safety, a sense of safety, security, and that is emotional security, personal security, financial security. The next step then is belonging. Do we have a connection of love? Do we have family and friends that we feel that we are a part of? Thereafter, it goes into esteem, which is both internal esteem, how do we feel about ourselves, and how do we think others feel about us? And finally, with all of those comes purpose. Are we able to learn, grow, and improve through life? And so all of these, with exception of the first one, which is the basic skills, these combine into feelings, social emotional skills. And they are skills. They're not something that we're born with. They're something that develop over our lifetime. And so as Jody mentioned, the intentional development of those skills is really important for us to be able to come into a sense of feeling successful. So if we will go ahead and pull up a slide, Mr. James. I'm not sure if it's up. I'm going to invite you all to pause for a moment and ask yourself, how am I feeling? Jeff Baker, my friend Jeff Baker, has engaged in this process already, but perhaps he's feeling more comfortable with it now. Take a look at these pictures. In a moment, but not until we're ready, James is going to put up a poll, and you're going to have an opportunity to identify one or more of these pictures that resonates with how you're feeling right now. So we'll pause for a moment and we'll have James put up that poll. There we go. Can you move it to a different part of the screen? Thank you. Okay. Do you see data coming in? All right, so we have almost all of our participants responding so far. So thank you, that's great. Now that we're getting into this, let's take a look at these pictures. Go ahead and unmute yourself or use the chat and throw out what which picture, if you could put a word with the emotion that's conveyed on that picture, what do you see? And we'll just open up the floor for people to chime in.
So I picked 4, 6, and 9 because 4 to me is like, here we go again, and 6 is like, oh my gosh, and 9 is like, can I handle it?
Thank you. That's awesome. Who else wants to chime in?
I picked 5 and 9 because 5 is just getting constantly hit with new paperwork and new rules and changes that we just can't ever get established with what we're doing. And then 9 is just being exhausted by the whole thing.
Thank you. Thank you for just sharing that with us. I really appreciate it. Do we have one more person who wants to maybe, let's see, number 3, feeling goofy. I love that. Feeling goofy within the chaos. Any other ideas? Okay. Somebody in the chat said that number 5 conveyed to them a sense of feeling overwhelmed.
Michelle and we are at Lassen County, and Michelle chose 3. She's happy. And I chose 7 because I just love to laugh and make others laugh.
I love that. And I have to say, whether it's an aspiration or actually what I'm feeling, and it kind of goes in and out, is I so relate to number 1. I'm just like, I don't know why. It just makes me laugh and makes me feel happy. So anyway, thank you so much. So James, do you have a little poll data for us? All right, so we had a preponderance of participants relating to number 9, feeling with our head down on needing a rest or taking a rest, whether we need it or not. 5, it looks like 5 and 8 are also among the highest in the response. And I am very low with a few friends at number 1, but that's okay because I'm feeling woolly and happy. So great, thank you for participating in that. So we're going to go out into breakout rooms again. This time we're just gonna have 3 minutes, and with the people in your breakout room, and you'll get this in a prompt in the breakout room so you don't have to write it down, but reflect on with them, if you would, how do you think your feelings will impact your day and impact the people with whom you interact today? So we're going to go into breakout rooms now and come back really shortly in 3 minutes. To watch the whole screen just go like popcorn, see everybody come back. So thank you. I hope you had some great dialogue. I'm in breakout room 1, and oh my goodness, we're having such great conversations in breakout room 1. So thank you, ladies, for that. Go team 1. All right, so I am sort of filling up a little bit of space because my dear friend Jody is coming back in to take us into a deep dive on the first competency in the social emotional learning, and that is self-awareness. So buckle your seatbelts, take a deep breath, and here we go.
Thank you. All right, thank you, Camille. As we know, hopefully in your breakout rooms, we talked a little bit about how our feelings and our emotions can really make or break a day, and they really just have the power to affect our lives, day in and day out. And so, being aware of how our thoughts and emotions really affect the way we respond in life is really beginning that process of self-awareness. So we are going to take a deeper dive, and I want you to think a moment about an argument that you had in the past. Maybe one with your spouse or a friend, or even one of your children. And it's just, think of one that was just really one of those heated arguments. Maybe something that you took wrong, or you said something in the moment, and you're in that argument and it's leaving you feeling flustered, kind of out of control, and really just exhausted. And think, in that moment, what did your body feel like? Can you actually remember how your body felt like in the moment? Or does it just run together with just more intense emotions adding to an already intense situation? In looking back at that argument, Did you, say things and toss out accusations, with, making them sound like they were fact? And so I want you to think about that argument for a moment. And I'm going to give you just a little bit of time and think about how you felt when you were feeling your emotions are flooding and your heart and your mind were racing. So just think about that for a moment. And now go back to that argument. If I were to ask you to repeat or recall that heated event, could you actually express a true understanding of what happened, of what that argument was really about? Would your recall of that event even be accurate? Or would your recall really be more about your personal perception or your thoughts, the feelings you were having in that moment, or the biases? But what if, in the heat of the moment, you actually allowed yourself to pause, to really just stop and think, and you gave yourself sort of a self-evaluation, and you thought about how your emotions affect your thoughts, and then those thoughts affect your actions and even your words in that moment. And you stopped and you said, am I acting the way I really should be acting? How might that argument have been different if you had more clarity and you allowed yourself to pause? This is what self-awareness really is about. It's about that pause, the ability to see clearly and to understand who you are as a person. It gives you that clear perception of your emotions, your strengths, your weaknesses, your beliefs. And we know that understanding all of this really affects our behavior, and especially those around us. So self-awareness really is a sort of medicine. It's that medicine to calm those internal flood of emotions. And so when we look at self-awareness, it's really about knowing oneself. It's not about thinking about yourself, but really knowing, really understanding the elements that affect our beliefs and our opinions. So it's about those attitudes and opinions, feelings and emotions, motives and purpose, desires and needs, strengths, weaknesses, and then having that accurate self-assessment. So when we think about these components, ask yourself, how do we honestly assess? And do we take the time to pause? Do we reflect and evaluate our behavior? And more importantly, are we honest with ourselves? There's tons of research. We know that people who are self-aware are those, and we know this, who pause and reflect are often more fulfilled in life. They have a better self-esteem, stronger relationships, they're more confident, they often perform better at work, and they're even better communicators. So we know that compassion and empathy really starts with self-awareness. And again, isn't that what we really want? So we're going to go into, Camille's going to go ahead and share something with you. And it's a great little illustration about how our emotions and attitude really affect ourselves and those around us. Thank you, Camille.
Thanks, Jody. So I think I've grabbed I have some fun parts to this. So have you ever not felt yourself? That's the big question. You go reflecting on, or somebody comes up to you and says, are you okay? You just don't seem like yourself. So James is going to post a video up here that we're going to share with you guys that's going to highlight this feeling, and then we'll talk about it.
Can we turn the AC up? I'm dying back here.
It's on. Can't you feel it?
Can you feel that?
Oh.
Jeff, eat a Snickers, please.
Why?
Every time you get hungry, you turn into a diva. Just eat it so we can all coexist.
Turn into a diva?
Put it in your system, cranky pants.
Okay.
Thank you. Better?
Better. Will you get your knees out of the back of my seat?
Oh.
You're not you when you're hungry. Snickers satisfies.
So I love that Snicker points out a couple of things with this. Number one, they're pointing out that hunger, which is, Maslow says, a basic need, is keeping us from being our true selves. And sometimes we don't even recognize it. So that's the importance of that element of belonging and love and family and friends and community, because our community helps us with our self-awareness by checking in with us, saying, hey, you don't seem like yourself. What's going on? And if they know you well enough, they might even suggest, okay, are you feeling a little hangry right now? Let's have a Snickers. So I love that. But the self-awareness, this Snickers points out that we just cannot do this work in isolation. We need our community as a filter, a feedback system to help us recognize when we're missing the mark in self-awareness, because I think very few of us have mastered it 100% of the time. We also need our community to help us break the cycle of habit and reaction. Habit and reaction is almost the opposite of self-awareness, because when we react out of habit and with an emotion, we may not fully understand how we're feeling and how the other person or other people are feeling. So the important thing that self-awareness brings to us is a mindfulness to pause. Pause so that your mind will allow your heart to feel, and you can see how your feelings are then impacting your thoughts and your behaviors, and how your feelings and thoughts and behaviors are impacting others and their thoughts and behaviors. That capacity to recognize is very much something that we need in order to engage in empathy and compassion. But first we need self-awareness and empathy and compassion for ourselves. So what we want to do is move away from the autopilot and ask, why are we behaving like we are? Why do we need to stop the mind chatter? What we need to do is pause. And not only when something's going wrong, but throughout the day, pause, take a breath, stop the cycle of berating ourselves or inflating ourselves in a given situation, recognize our good and not so great traits, most of which we are generally unaware of, and take ourselves to a place where we have a calm mind and an open heart, so that we can be objective with ourselves and with the people around us. So now my good friend Jody is going to take us through an exercise where we have an opportunity to experience that beautiful, calm, open house, open mind sensation.
Yo. Like Camille said, breaking or being self-aware really is about breaking that cycle and allowing ourselves to pause. And so this is just another tool to put in our toolbox, and this is the COM 5. Oftentimes we know that our bodies are present, but our minds are elsewhere. Maybe it was in that argument when you're trying to focus on a meeting, or dealing with an issue, with a family member, a loved one, and trying to focus on schoolwork. So we want you to be present for this activity. So I want you to just go ahead and take your hands, place them in your lap for a moment. And this is just like a mindful minute. And so we can use our own breath to calm our bodies. So what I want you to do is go ahead and take your hand and open it up. Okay, and then take your other hand, your pointer finger, and you're going to just place it in the center of your palm. And I want you to go ahead and just close your eyes. And I want you just to press in the center of your palm. And I want you to take a deep breath in and a deep breath out. Now, I want you to imagine a laser light shining through the palm of your hand. And envision that light going through your arm, up to your shoulder, and now down to your heart. This is the heart connection directly to your hand. And this is your calm. So now we're going to go ahead and we're going to take a deep breath in. And as we take that deep breath in, we're going to rise to the top of our thumb. So go ahead and take a deep breath in. And breathe out slowly, return back to the center of your palm. And we're going to go ahead and breathe in again, this time going up to our pointer finger. Breathe in. And out, back to the center. Out to the middle finger. Breathe in slowly. And exhale slowly. And now your ring finger, go ahead and breathe in. And exhale. And your pinky, go ahead and breathe in slowly. And exhale. Now your fingers back at the center. This is your heart connection. Go ahead and take a deep breath in. And out. This is your calm, your heart connection. All right. So how did that make you feel? Anybody want to share? You'd have to go ahead and unmute yourself to share.
Super relaxed.
Relax, yes. I think this is a strategy that so many of us can use, even our own children. I shared it with mine, and it's just a great way to, give children the tools to calm their minds. So I want you in the chat. So in the chat in just a moment, I want you to think of a time when you could use this in your life and apply it in your life. And maybe it's in your classroom, maybe it's in your home. And so go ahead and put that in the chat. And then our friend Camille will be doing it. Thank you.
Thanks, Jody. All right, so we know that a good collection of data has a pre-data assessment and a post-data assessment. So my friend James is going to bring us back to our grid of how we're feeling. And if you would please, we'll re-enter poll data and see if our collective selves are feeling more grounded or if there's any change in our emotions. So James, whenever you're ready, go ahead and reshare that poll and let's see how the group is feeling after Jody's beautiful mindful moment. James, if you'll let me know when we get to about 80 or 85%. So James is going to share our data out, and we'll be able to compare with the memory of a lot of people living in the 9 and 5 region of the grid. Where are we now? It's like magic. And we're with the panda. Very nice. A little bit, 5 has completely disappeared. People are feeling less barraged by random frisbees and a little bit more in the, and oh, look at that. I think we have one more person in number 1. Thank you. I love the company. So, and of course, you're being prompted and I'm leading the witnesses a little bit in setting up this, but really that calm 5, whether your mind is racing at the end of the day and you just can't fall asleep, or if you're like me, you wake up and I have no problem falling asleep, and then I wake up in the middle of the night and I can't go back to sleep because I'm thinking about either all the things that happened the day before or all the things that are coming up in with the dawn. So there are tools for this, which takes us into another activity that we're going to do. James, if you would advance the slide for me, please. So we're going to go into a quick self-reflection on self-awareness. If you have a piece of paper and a pencil around that you can grab, spend about a minute on each of these prompts. The first one is, I identify, recognize, and name my emotions in the moment when and then identify a tool that you have successfully used to maybe pause when you're in a heated moment or an intense moment. It might be a moment of joy or a moment of challenge. And the second prompt is, I recognize the relationship between my feelings and my reactions to people and situations when so we'll take 2 minutes. James, you want to start our 2-minute countdown? Write down some responses. You may revisit these in future. So put it on a napkin or a doily that you'll have around for you. Thank you. I just want to pause and see if there's something that anyone would like to share out as a strategy that the rest of us might benefit from. Go ahead and unmute yourself or use the chat if that is more comfortable for you. James is going to time us again. No, okay.
Camille, I'll share. I think on the second question, I recognized it when I get some kind of nonverbal or verbal feedback from someone. So it could even just be that where they look away or roll their eyes, or there's that nonverbal is probably when I recognize the relationship between the people and situations more.
Thank you. And isn't it interesting how we're adapting to a Zoom interaction environment and trying to read those cues from our various community members, whether we know them or we're just learning to know them on Zoom, and even accentuating sometimes our own reactions so that others can see and read our cues. I think that's interesting. I see on the chat that someone takes a deep breath. Helps me identify and recognize. That's awesome. Any others? Did anything else pop up in the chat?
One thing that has kind of been new for me is my wife bought me one of these smartwatches, and all of a sudden I get a vibration on my watch and it says your heart rate is just popped up and you're not active. And it's like, oh yeah, I'm feeling pretty intense about what's going on.
That's interesting. I never thought of the smartwatch as a self-awareness tool, but it really could be. So thanks, Jeff. That's awesome. Apple will, they can hike the price up now. Okay, so James, if you would please advance the slides. So if you're like me, you come to a webinar and you're really interested in the topic and it resonates with you, and then suddenly it's starting to wind down to a close, and I'm like, but wait, I want more. So if you're in that boat right now, we want to share with you some tools that you can use to continue your discovery in this journey of self-awareness. But also, you don't have to mark these down, because we will be sharing them out in a newsletter that will enhance what we've discussed today. And that'll go out tomorrow morning. So every participant here, and even those who are unable to come, will be able to will receive that. And feel free to pass it on to folks that you think might enjoy our community of practice in social emotional learning. But for today, we're sharing out 3 tools that can extend your adventure. One is the Mood Meter app. Really cool. I downloaded it and I'm already using it. And as I think about my years as a teacher, I think to myself, wow, I wish that I had had this tool. It could have helped with students who were grappling with understanding the connection between their feelings, recognizing their feelings, and seeing how those feelings really impacted their behaviors. Headspace is another app. And finally, Life Ingredients, which was the origin of the music that we were enjoying before we started today, as well as the Calm 5 activity. There are a number of really amazing activities. It's a website that's really put together resources for kindergarten through 8th graders in particular, but I benefit from them all the time. So make sure that you're making time every day to pause and reflect on how you feel and how those feelings are influencing your thoughts and behaviors as you go through the day. I'm going to step off. Thank you so much for your participation. And if James doesn't do it at the end of this meeting, make sure that you send great appreciation to James for all of his hard work in putting all of this together.
Thank you, Camille, and thank you, Jody. We have had a great time today. You know, it's been my privilege to lead this work and to get to work with such a great team and great people. Part of what we're going to be doing, and if you have your agenda, I chose not to make it really big, but it kind of looks like this. It's the roadmap that's going to map out our time together as we go through this process. And as I said, we are going to start going into a couple of our other future meetings. We'll start going into smaller cohorts where we'll actually be doing work in like age groups, like community groups, maybe going around a specific theme. And so we'll be doing that, but you all have this roadmap in your agenda packet. In your newsletter tomorrow, it'll be there. And so I wanted to just kind of give you a little bit of background and kind of how we've designed this. Each time we're going to try on, as a community of practice, we're going to try on some things. We're going to try to give you some resources. We're going to spend time in doing some different activities and then having discussions. And we will be recording each of the sessions so that we can share them out. And then at the end, we'll make sure that all of the resources are in the links in the chat below. And so we'll be doing a lot of that work. We also be launching through our website. You'll be able to go in and you'll actually get to the Social and Emotional Learning Community of Practice website. And so that will launch tomorrow around 9 o'clock in the morning when the newsletter comes out to you and to the rest of the educators and people that we have in our community. And we're going to ask you to share that information. So when you get it, we are going to ask you to share it. The tools and resources are things they can use. We don't need to keep it just to ourselves, so let's share that work. And then the recording will come to you, and we'll make that available. And if you choose to share that with someone or you want to go back and review it, we would love for you to be able to do that. And so we're committed to that process, as well as sharing that information. And we understand people have asked me, well, as we look at the roadmap, what if I can't make a meeting? Well, we're going to record it for you, and then you'll be able to look at that recording and then to share pieces that you want. The other thing that we will be doing is we will be giving you resources. As a part of the community of practice, there will be some resources that will say, hey, we're going to give this to every member. It might be a book, it might be an app, it might be a present, it might be a journal. There's all kinds of things that we're in that process of being able to give you the resources and tools. The one thing I will highlight for you is that in In August, we have planned 2 dates, the 5th and the 6th. And our goal there is going to be an institute of really looking at social and emotional learning. We're looking at probably half days each day, and doing some real, having some great speakers come in, some things to really energize you. And then we are in the process of doing a contract with a group that looks at adultitis. And so we'll be pushing that out in our newsletter as well, because we believe that not only do we need to take care of the students and the families that we serve, but we need to take care of you, the adults that are in our community of practice, and the other educators. So we'll be pushing that out each week with things just to give them as a Wednesday or a Monday meetup, where they can go in and they can re-energize themselves with some great comedy, maybe a couple of activities in there. And so it's really going to be a fun time as we get to launch deeper into the work. But I want you to know that we want to be here to serve you. And so if there is something that you need, we want to try to be as responsive as possible. And so what we're going to ask of you is that you can always go in and populate that garden that's through the link on your agenda today. That garden, we will see it when there are changes made to it or something is happening. We all have emails, and we would love to do that. We also have phones. We'd love to talk to you. But we want to make sure that this is not just something that we're pushing out to you, but we want to get in and get deeper dive into the work that we're doing. Today's is really about the self-care of adults. One of the things that we've learned that through this process of looking at trauma, looking at the pandemic, looking at disaster, what we typically don't do is we don't spend time giving people that are in the trenches the actual tools to self-care. And so as we look at that, we're really looking at 2 things. So today, I want to give you 2 things to think about before I send you into your final breakout group. And you're only going to spend 3 minutes in your breakout group. But here's the question. What do you imagine will be different 9 months from now due to your focus on social and emotional learning? In 9 months, you're back with us. We're glad to be able to that you joined us today. I will share with you that as we do go through this process, there will be other resources that you'll be getting, and we'll be pushing out over the next couple of weeks to kind of make sure that our journey is continuing to be kept in motion. And so we want to make sure that we don't miss that part. Before you leave today, and I want you to note that we're going to give you the gift of 15 minutes today. I want you to please take a moment and complete the exit survey that is a part of your agenda. And I will post that link, hopefully in the chat if I can navigate well enough, or I'll have one of my partners in crime help me with that. Put that link into the chat. It's important that you give us feedback. We want to make these as helpful and as useful as possible. We will be, looking at resources in this season as we go through. Is there something that we really want to do? But what we wanted to start with was not just to say, hey, we're going to buy another piece of curriculum for you and train you on it, but we want it to be organic, and we want to do the work together so that we all have an opportunity to buy in and to participate in the work that we are doing. And so that's really our goal. And we want to make it so that you can share it. And so that is our goal. So please complete the evaluation that is in there. That will be your exit ticket for today. And we just really appreciate you taking the time to join us today. Thank you all for participating today. And once you're done with that, we have concluded for today.